Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Trinisphere, brought to you by tappedout.net. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and the Trinisphere.com, our webpage. I'm here with my co-hosts.
Ryan, I know you guys miss me.
And Adam, the Johnny.
And I am obviously Shannon, the Timmy. So tonight we'll be talking about the Hour of Devastation leaks and also EDH multiplayer variants. All right, we got Hour of Devastation spoilers. We got a couple of new ones that came out. Some of them came out today, so we'll be talking about those. So it's unfortunate these are coming out a little ahead of season, but they're out there, so we will be covering them in depth. So first up, we got Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh. Oh, yes. And he is 7 mana, 4 blue, black, and red for 7 loyalty. And he has 4 abilities. His +2 says, target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until they exile a non-land card. And until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. He has a +1 that says each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. He has a -4 that says Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. And he has a -12 that says exile each non-land permanent your opponent's control. Spike, what do you think?
Not that great. -4 is awful. +1 is great. Eat 6 cards if you're playing in a 4-man pod. +2, don't like relying on my opponent's deck at all. I'd much rather know that my deck is doing the job.
Yep.
And the -12 is great if you get there, I guess. I mean, it's a symmetrical effect that hits only your opponents, and you probably win after that, honestly, unless they have some sort of ridiculous follow up. But other than that, that's all I got for him. What about you, man?
I agree with Ryan.
How bad did that hurt?
I know, it was pretty bad.
Well, luckily we have it on tape.
Yeah. On almost all counts. I mean, I like the design. It's a cool card, but the +1 is the best thing about him. The +2, I like playing with other people's cards, and the other things. I mean, they're not doing anything interesting. I mean, I love the art. I love Bolas back, but that's really not my shtick. Shannon?
I'm so happy to have it on Nicol Bolas.
I'm sure you are.
And
Yeah.
Nikki B. But once I got over the hype, I was comparing him objectively to the original Nicol Bolas. And original Nicol Bolas' ability set allowed him to deal with basically any permanent. If it's not a creature, he can blow it up. If it's a creature, he can gain control of it. This guy can only deal with things 7 power, or 7 toughness or less, or 7 loyalty or less. Beyond that, he's relying on top decking good cards off his opponent's decks. His +1 is actually really good, just completely wrecking people's hands. His -12 is pretty decent. It seems like an overcosted Ugin's minus at first, but it is notable that it exiles your opponent's stuff and not yours. So if this guy's then, say, like a Planeswalker deck, he ain't going to exile all of your Planeswalkers like Ugin does. So I'm super hyped. I'm super going to jam him into the Planeswalkers and try and maybe fit him in some other ones. Mind's Dilation's effects are kind of risky, but they're pretty Timmy. So next up, we got another Planeswalker, Samut the Tested. For 2, a red and a green, you get a 4 loyalty Planeswalker with a +1 that says up to 1 target creature gains double strike until end of turn. -2 that says Samut deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and/or players. And for -7, you can search your library for up to 2 creatures and/or Planeswalker cards and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Spike, is this a little more up your alley or what?
Samut the Terrible, hard pass. Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, Assault Strobe +1, Forked Bolt -2, Better Tooth and Nail -7. The -7 is good and interesting, but at the same time, you shouldn't be judging your Planeswalkers on
Off
their
of its
ult.
ultimate, ever do that.
Yep.
That's just a bad play. It is cute, yes. I kind of want a doubling season and then ult this thing right away and get 2 other walkers. Yes, hooray. And it still stays around to Assault Strobe. So I don't see myself playing this, to be honest. Shannon?
I don't like any Planeswalker that relies on creatures to do stuff. The removal on this thing is pretty bad. The ult is good. Like you said, doubling season into 2 more Planeswalkers that come in ready to ult because of the doubling season is a brutal play, but it just doesn't justify all the other abilities. You'd be playing this card for just that one ability. So I think I'm going to give this one also a thumbs down, which would be a 3 thumbs down from the whole
That is
Trinisphere.
the Trinisphere stamp of disapproval.
Dang, wrecked.
Yeah.
Bye,
All right.
Felicia.
You don't want a Forked Bolt 2 turns in a row at sorcery speed?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, so next up we got Bantu's Last Reckoning, and it's a 3-mana board wipe. It's 1 in double black, and it says destroy. It's a sorcery speed. It says destroy all creatures, and then lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. Ryan, what do you think?
I love undercosted Wrath effects. However, the fact that your lands don't untap during your next untap step seems a little hindering. We have run into the situation where we have an undercosted Wrath of God, and I don't know in EDH if you ever really want to Wrath on 3. Like the late game Wrath just kind of puts you in the. I mean, it like you would just play Damnation, I believe at this point.
Yeah.
Or Deluge. You're just putting yourself in the spot where you cast this, and then if you tap any mana, even at instant speed on your opponent's turn, you still don't untap those lands.
Yeah.
So late game, it could still be backbreaking for you. And do you really want to pass on your turn 10 and let your opponents get a free one? Like, I don't know, man. What about you? What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the only scenario that I see this in is the janky, like where I play this on turn 8, and then I play
Specifically turn 8.
Yeah, and then I play a
Palinchron?
Seedborn. I play a Seedborn Muse right afterwards.
Oh, nice.
So this doesn't actually impact me.
Yeah.
But that's even pretty loose. Like, I like this. I like the design. I love the art. I'm glad that they went out on a limb with this. I hope that this is a cycle, like some people have speculated. I don't know that time walking yourself is ever going to be good enough for this effect in EDH when we have Deluge and Damnation available.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Shannon?
I kind of agree. This one it's hard to evaluate this one. We'll have to really see how you can get around the whole lands untap thing. You can play this in a Mana Rock heavy deck, or like you said, a Seedborn Muse deck. But other than that, this is a tough cost to pay. It's notable that this could be a cheap alternative to Deluge if you have a Gaddock Teague that just plagues your existence. So you got another 3-drop below Gaddock Teague.
That's true.
But beyond that, Deluge is a better option if you can afford it. So we'll have to keep an eye on Bantu's Last Reckoning and see if it pans out to be better than we think. But for now, it's not going to be fitting into any decks. Next up, revealed today, we have Wildfire Eternal. And that's a 4-mana, 3 and a red for a zombie jackal cleric. 1/4.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
It has a new ability called Afflict, and Afflict says, whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses X life, where X is the Afflict number. This guy's Afflict 4. So he gets blocked, he'll dome his opponent for 4. He also has a ability that says whenever he attacks and isn't blocked, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your hand without paying its mana cost. Ryan, what do you think?
It's way too Timmy. The Afflict, the mechanic is too slow and too weak for EDH in my opinion. Unless it was Afflict 10 or something obnoxious, people have no reason not to block this. Mm-hmm. They'll take 4 to kill something that's going to allow you to cast a cruel ultimatum or a tooth and nail from your hand. It's not for me. I don't like this card very much at all. It's overcosted. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, other than the zombie jackal cleric tribal deck that I'm building,
Nice.
I don't really see a place for it. No,
Can we just call jackals jackies from now on?
Yes.
That would make me happy.
That's what's happening.
Zombie jackies.
I'd say from like a design perspective, I really like what they did here. I think Afflict is super interesting in limited. I don't think that it's going to make a huge impact because I don't think we're going to see an Afflict 10 or anything like that. And Afflict 4 is really just not going to do it, which is probably about the highest we're going to see. The free spells, I mean, I'm always looking for free spells, but I feel like I'm working way too hard for it in this scenario.
Maybe that
for
haste.
something that's pretty fragile. I mean, even if it had haste, I mean, so it's going to do it one time. Why don't I just cast the spell?
Because you spent 4 mana on this thing.
You spend 4 mana to. It's just like a Through the Breach almost. Like you through the Breach of Blightsteel, you spend 4 mana to.
No,
to
it does not seem like a good trade-off.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's a card slot that maybe gets one spell out for free, so sometimes it'll do good things. Shannon?
Yeah, even as a Timmy, I'm not super excited about this card. It's interesting that it makes opponents have to kind of logic through the process. Did they take the 4 and kill this thing, or do they risk the spell in their hand? So it makes for some interesting combats, but I honestly think a lot of the times I would just take the 1 and say what do you got? Because you're probably bluffing. You probably don't have anything good in your hand. Or it's probably like something small that does a little bit of damage here and there. So not risking the 4. So anyways, he doesn't really strike me as a great card. He reminds me of the Champion of Ronus, which when you exert him, he puts a creature into play. This guy kind of, when he gets there, he casts a spell for free. Not super excited for this card at all. So next up, we have Runa Excavator. 2 green for a 2/3 that has the ability, you may play land cards from your graveyard. So this is the Magus of the Crucible we've been waiting for. Ryan, excited?
Super. It is now a second Crucible in Azusa Stripmine.deck.
Oh my gosh, stop.
I don't know. Overall, it's just an awesome card design. Crucible is an amazing card. Now we have a creature that does the same thing. It is obviously color restricted, and the fact that a creature is easier to remove is obviously a dumbed down version of it, so the price gap will never be even remotely the same. However, I'm just really happy to see Magus of the Crucible.
Yeah.
What about you, Adam?
Hashtag why no snake.
Oh my gosh.
Who cares? No one cares.
I can't get over the Naga. Anyway,
Naga Jackal.
pretty much everything that Ryan said. I mean, this is going straight into my Sidisi deck. This is going to obviously make it into Azusa decks, Get Rog decks. It's going to be all over the place. It helps enable the combos in just one more way because, you only have one Crucible in there. It is green restricted. That's fine. 2/3 body for 3 is not the worst. I really, really like this card. I'm super happy they printed it. I would say that you should probably pre-order them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, depending on price, we don't know where that's at right now.
Yeah.
These could pre-order for like 10, 15. That might be a little steep.
I don't see it going far below that.
I do. It's in a standard set. It's going to get cracked like crazy. This is going to have expeditions or whatever the heck you want to call them.
As a Timmy, I love this card also. Crucible generally gets played in green decks anyways, so because you're probably putting lands in your graveyard and then recurring them, or ramping of some kind. So I really like this card a lot. It's going to see a lot of play in a lot of my decks too. Super excited for this card, so I'm giving it a thumbs up, and I think everyone else is. So we have simultaneously our triple thumbs of approval.
That's right.
The Trinisphere stamp of approval.
It should also be a druid.
Not a Sam it the Terrible.
I approve it. All right, so we have a few other cards that were spoiled too. Not the red one's not very EDH playable, and the white one isn't either. But it did have a new ability that caught our interest, and that one's called Eternalize. So that is a new mechanic on a rare card. That card is a 2-mana 1/1. Double strike and rare, and it has Eternalize for 5. So we started brewing what would make a good ability on a rare card that would kind of pique our interest. So Ryan, what do you think? What would make this card playable in your mind?
Based off the fact that it's named Eternalize and the fact that it's a 5-mana ability. I'm not saying it's great, but the way I look at it is it's probably going to create an indestructible version of this card, like a super embalm,
Mega Embalm,
yeah, Megamorph, Jesus. But yeah, it's gonna be something along those lines, and giving it indestructible, like imbuing it with the power of the gods, making it immortal. That's the way I look at it. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that Fencing Ace needed to be rare shifted up just so it can have indestructible. That sounds horrible. No, I mean, my thought. And I don't know. I honestly have no idea what this is, but I think that if you paid the Eternalized cost and exiled it from your yard, and it gave your entire team essentially a buff equal to that creature's abilities, so in this case, +1/+1 and double strike to your entire team, obviously amazing if it's at instant speed. Probably more likely to be sorcery speed if they went in that direction with it. I think it would be kind of flavorful, like, it's eternalizing itself in that it's kind of like bearing its legacy to all of its friends kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shannon, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I kind of go in the same camp as the Mega Embalm. So I'm thinking they're going to bring Embalm back, and it's going to have some other bonus. Hopefully indestructibility. Hopefully we do get something kind of along the lines of Mega Embalm, because now we have more zombie cats and more tokens, another 50 tokens. So we'll have to see what Embalm pans out to. Eternalize pans out to be when the set comes out. So that wraps up our Hour of Devastation spoilers. So up next, we'll be talking about multiplayer game types. All right, we got EDH multiplayer variants. We have a couple of single-player variants that we'll talk about in other episodes, and even some special home-brewed variants that we'll talk about. But today we're really going to focus on the multiplayer ones, and how politics can apply to some of these formats. So up first we have Planechase. It's a multiplayer format, and I'm sure you all are pretty familiar with Planechase. It's kind of like normal EDH, but now you have planar cards and planar die that you'll be using to play as well. And those planes, if you've not seen them before, are kind of like global effects that are applied to each player, and you have the ability to roll the planar die in order to try and change that effect or gain bonus effects off of the planes. And the planes are big, oversized cards that you can buy, and there are a ton of them, and some of them are pretty neat. So what do you think, Spike? What do you think about Planechase?
I honestly hate it. It takes away a lot of magic from me, in my opinion. Like it does too much to the game. The state-based effects from these, what's the word? Interactable card.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like
command zone.
It's like a command zone type effect. Like you can't affect this. The only way you can do that is by dumping a bunch of mana or resources into it to try to run away from it. And at that point in time, you're just time lock yourself harder, because at that point in time, if you're trying to run away from it, chances are it's benefiting your opponent, and they're just continuously growing their board state or hand size or whatever it may be, and you're just running, and they're sitting there laughing, having a great time. And I feel like some of them hinder some decks to such an extreme that you're not playing Magic anymore, and other decks are other decks benefit from it so much that they are playing unfair Magic. And granted, it's EDH, so there's always unfair things happening, but it's just something their deck should never be able to do on its own. This Plains is just pumping it to the next level. Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie. This format's just not for me. I don't like the variants, and it's whatever. What about you, Adam? How you feel?
Well, you would think if it's not for you, that it would be for me, but you'd be wrong. Planechase has just never rubbed me the right way for whatever reason. We've played it a decent amount in our play group. We have some people who have all the planar cards and the planar dice and stuff. But yeah, I have to agree with your point. I mean, it has the potential to disrupt a player's game plans, mine or my opponent's, so much that it becomes slightly unfun, because I don't ever want to see somebody just lose because they're getting hosed by some global effect that they can't even interact with. It doesn't make my decks any more fun to play, because I'm still trying to do what it is that I'm trying to do with my decks. I'm not a huge fan. It's something to do to shake up things in a group. I mean, I definitely wouldn't, bash it. If somebody's got a planar deck around, I mean, I'll play it, but it's not my favorite. Shannon?
So if it's not for a Spike and it's not for Johnny, it should be for the Timmy. So this format, I think, is Timmy-centric. It's got big, splashy changes, and the planes change, and it should make for some interesting stories. Saying that, however, I don't really like Planechase either. I've gotten to the point where I'm really focused on building decent decks, and I want to really see their synergies work, and Planechase is just way too random for me. It causes disruptions. It's frustrating sometimes when your deck is just about to, reach that critical mass, and then all of a sudden the whole game turns on its head. And another thing I don't really like is how the planar die has the equivalent number of planeswalk symbols as it does chaos symbols. So trying to roll the planar die for a favorable outcome has an equal chance of just ruining you, So
yep.
This game is a lot about variance, and we really do call on Planechase when we've gotten a little stagnant. We've been playing a lot of just plain old vanilla EDH for a long time, and we feel bored with our decks. We haven't built any new ones. We'll pull out Planechase, but it is a interesting format for breaking that stale EDH night, which I would recommend. But beyond that, if you're trying real hard to get a deck to work, don't play Planechase. Don't pull out the Planechase cards. So next up, we have Archenemy. And Archenemy is a format produced by Wizards. They have pre-constructed Archenemy sets that you can buy. And in those sets, they'll have 4 decks, an Archenemy deck and 3 pre-constructed, ally decks. And they also have a deck of Archenemy cards. So similar to how the Planechase cards are cards that are completely outside of normal Magic, so are Archenemies, and they're big and goofy just like the Planechase cards. And unlike Planechase cards which affect everyone, the Archenemy cards only affect the Archenemy, the one who's playing effectively a 1v3 against everyone else. Ryan, what do you think about Archenemy?
This kind of just rolls back into Planechase a little bit for me. This is, in my opinion, the whole Archenemy aspect is more of a Temmie thing. Realistically, you're all about taking on 3 people at once. Realistically, if I'm taking 3 people on at once, it either means I've done something wrong or they just really don't like me. Which it's usually they really don't like me. But the fact that there's also static effects that affect the Archenemy to give him an edge, I just don't like. I just feel like it takes away too much because I can't interact with that static effect. You can accrue value. Granted, I know there's 3 people interacting with you, but this variant to me is just not something I would ever seek out. If someone said, "Hey, you want to play it?" Like if Shannon was like, "Let's play some Archenemy. I want you guys to attack me. Let's do it." I'd be like, "Sure, we're not doing anything else." Like almost like breaking the stagnant feel of a group, but not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I consider all games against Shannon or you Archenemy, where it's just the rest of us against you guys.
A weekly reoccurring EDH element.
Right, exactly. No, I mean, I have to say, as opposed to Planechase, I like Archenemy a little bit more. I have found that the Archenemy cards are some of them are extremely overpowered, in my opinion, to where it swings the game way in that person's favor, more so than I think that it should. But that's a little bit of the fun of it. But I mean, I think that's kind of the Timmy aspect to it. From my perspective, as usually being one of the other players, not usually being the archenemy of it, it's fun enough to play. I mean, I've played it on the Xbox game, the Duel of the Planeswalkers or whatever it is, that will never be made again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun enough. I'm always game for it. It was originally purposed, I believe, with 60 card decks, but we have played it with EDH decks, and I think it makes for, again, something fun and new to shake up the format if your play group needs that, and if somebody in your play group already has the cards.
Yeah.
So what about you, Shannon? This is again kind of on the Timmy bone.
This one I do like a lot more than Planechase, and I'm not just saying that because I enjoy having one-sided planar effects effectively. I actually enjoy being one of the 3 fighting against one. I just enjoy like a good challenge. I want the game to actually kind of be stacked against me, so it presents like a challenge abnormally. So even being the archenemy against 3 people is fun, even though, like you said, some of the scheme cards are they're crazy. They're too powerful.
Yeah.
I was watching some streamers play the new set, and the 3 players facing Nicol Bolas, they never had a chance. They were just getting steamrolled. Yep. So, and then being one of the 3 is great because you can try and strategize some pretty crazy plays. So it makes for some pretty great stories. There is a new archenemy set that just came out, the Nicol Bolas one. So if you guys are interested in checking it out, you can go pick that up. And you get some really cool alternate arts for Nicol Bolas. It's going to be the older Nicol Bolas, not the new one. And then it has a couple of new arts for Planeswalkers too. So Archenemy, it's a pretty fun icebreaker.
Yeah, the only other thing that I'll say about Archenemy is it's a format more so than Planechase, where if your group really likes playing it, you might actually consider designing decks specifically for it. Because having 3 people on one team, it's really important to be able to interact with other people's creatures, being able to buff other people's creatures. So staying away from cards that say only, your creatures or something like that, and, is probably a good thing. So it also presents some interesting deck building opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next up we got Star Magic. And Star Magic is a 5-player free-for-all format where you guys will be sitting kind of in a circle. And you will, instead of having the objective of killing everyone in your pod, you're just going to be focusing on the 2 people who are sitting across from you, or the 2 people who are not sitting to your left and right. So each player has a different set of opponents, and some of the players' opponents overlap. So there'll be like, 2 players trying to kill 1 player. And then they'll have other different opponents. And the goal of the game is just to simply kill the 2 people across from you. Once the second person dies, you win the game. So this one has actually some political aspects to it that are pretty interesting. So what do you think about, Ryan, what do you think about Star Magic?
When it comes to Star Magic, I like to look at it like an objective-based EDH game. Yeah. You sit in a 4-man pod, and of course your objective is to win. However, you're just trying to be the last man standing. When it comes to Star Magic, you have an objective, a goal. You're seeking out 2 players. You don't care about what the other 2 are doing unless they're interacting with you. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of giving yourself a mission to seek and destroy. And I kind of like that. This is probably actually one of out of the 3 that we mentioned, my favorite format. It's really cool because it runs the confusion where, you kill someone and like that, because that's your goal is to kill that person and this person, and you kill them, and then everyone gets kind of scared and they start interacting with you. Even though they may be your neighbor or friendly unit in a sense, they have no reason to unless you're going to win the game, because if you kill that last person,
Game's over.
The game's over for them, and all they're trying to do is win.
Yeah,
and
so all of a sudden your allies become your enemies. Right?
Yep, and they don't care at first, but the second that you're within winning range, they're gonna take a step up.
Yeah.
Adam, your feels?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's a good one to have under your belt because you don't need anything for it. So if you've got 5 players, a 5-player free-for-all pod of everybody playing against everybody else can be very grueling. That's slightly over. Definitely. I mean, my optimal is 4 people in a pod, but if you have a 5th player and you want to include that person, Star is a really easy thing to explain and to throw down, and adds a lot of really interesting interactions. Board wipes have a completely different context because you don't want to necessarily hose the people to your right and left because they might be doing some of your work for you. So, but at the same time, you want to stop the people that are across from you. So you have to really consider when you play certain things. If somebody to your right or left does take out one of the people that you don't actually care about, then you kind of have to shift who you're going to take out next to not the person that helps them win the game. Mm-hmm. And it creates a lot of very interesting situations. I would highly recommend it. It doesn't play too much into my whole like Johnny, trying to build interesting decks and do interesting things, because it realistically plays like a normal EDH game, other than the societal aspects of it and the conversations that happen.
I don't really think this format pertains to you all that much, because if you just combo off in the corner like you usually do,
I like it.
You would just kill everyone simultaneously anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Only 2 people are trying to stop me from comboing. I like it.
Yep.
Everyone would try and stop you because then they lose. It's the same concept. You just have one more person to worry about.
That's true.
Yeah. So I also, as a Timmy, kind of like this format a lot too. And there's a lot of political aspects like you guys covered to it. So there's pivoting goals as the game changes. Suddenly your allies become your enemies because they're about to win the game. And then, like you said, sometimes the decision, a normal player will just play that wrath. But if you're keeping an eye on what your allies are doing, sometimes you may hold that wrath back because you see that they're about to kill one of your opponents. So you're like, you just go get them. So there's a little bit of politics in there too. So Star Magic is a pretty fun 5-player free-for-all format that you guys should play if you have that 5th person who showed up and just broke up your 4-man pod. Those jerks. All right, next up we're going to talk about Emperor. We're going to up the count from 5 players to 6. So you guys are probably familiar with Emperor, but if not, Emperor is a 3v3 format with spheres of influence. So if you're not familiar with spheres of influence, that means your spells will only affect certain players inside your sphere of influence. So if you Wrath of God, it'll destroy their creatures. Players outside your sphere of influence will just go about their business. There was no wrath that they could see. Yep. Same goes for countering spells. You can only counter certain spells that are inside your sphere of influence, and you can only attack players in your sphere of influence. So in Emperor, each team comprised of 3 players has 2 grunts, the frontline soldiers, and then an Emperor in the back. And the goal of the game is for each team to kill the opposing team's Emperor. But the trick is that the grunts up front have a sphere of influence of 1, which means they can see each other, and they can see the opposing grunt sitting across from them on the other team, and they can see their own leader behind them. So if they cast a Wrath of God, it destroys their creatures. The grunt sitting in front of them, the Emperor sitting behind them, and in some versions of the format, it'll destroy their friendly grunts creatures as well. There's a lot of implications on casting spells at the right time in Emperor. And then when one of these grunts dies, the sphere of influence is changed, which allows the grunt that's still standing in that lane, per se, to attack the opposing Emperor. Emperors also have a sphere of influence of 2, which means at the start of the game, if I cast a Wrath, it destroys every single grunt's creatures, both my own teammates' grunts and my opposing team's grunts. And then, of course, when one of those grunts dies, now the Emperor can cast a spell to target the opposing Emperor, because that lane has like kind of shrunk in size. So what do you think about Emperor, Spike?
I really do not like Sphere of Influence. It takes away a lot for me because I feel like there's a lot of decks that need to be specifically designed for this kind of play. There are ways to abuse Sphere of Influence and there's way to manipulate it. And quite frankly, unless you have like sat down and been like, hey, we're doing an Emperor League, taking your standard your standard decks your standard EDH decks you play in a 4-man pod into an Emperor game is kind of rough sometimes. Like, I'm granted it may be rough for everyone, but I think I've played this I think 3 or 4 times now. I was never once the Emperor. I was always a grunt. And the 1v1 aspect, which, like we said, we'll talk in the future about in a different episode, was nice. But knowing that there was that person on the other side that I couldn't interact with, that could just wrath my board at any point in time, it's very, very, what's the word?
Disconcerting.
Frustrating.
Yes, both of those fit. It's very frustrating feeling knowing that at any point in time, something that I can't whimsical. That something I could not interact with could just ruin my day immediately. Yeah. That person could Armageddon at any point in time in the game, and I would have no lands. But
and you can't stop the Armageddon.
And I can't stop it.
Yep.
It's in my opinion, it's not fair, and I don't know. The sphere of influence aspect of this game type is just frustrating to me. Mm-hmm. Johnny?
I don't like it when things aren't fair.
Oh, baby.
So sad. No, I am also not a huge... I mean, I remember playing this back in Ice Age block with regular, like, standard decks. And I was never a huge fan of it. Yeah, there's also some, like, kind of variance to this where, like, you're allowed to ship your creatures to other people if you're the Emperor and things like that, which adds a whole nother dimension to it. I would say that if you are going to play this, because we have a play group that's all been playing together for quite some time, and we're all pretty knowledgeable players, I would say that if you're going to play this in your play group, it's nice to try out, but make sure that you have a play group of people who are not new to the game and not new to EDH, because this is very complex. The rules, the different situations, just spheres of influence in general become very complex for people. So not a beginner game, can be interesting, not my thing necessarily. I mean, and that said, again, like, it creates interesting deck building opportunities, but really only for the people who are Emperor. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, they kind of get to sit back and build up board state, wait for one of those grunts to fall, and then just unload an infinite combo on somebody. That's kind of how our experiences came with that game. Also, like you said, the rules are not needlessly complex, but they are pretty complex. And I used to have a rule whenever our group wanted to sit down to play Emperor, and that was I would explain things twice. And on the third time I had to explain it, we're no longer playing Emperor. Like, I'm done explaining it. And it's tough because there's a lot of things to go over. So my experience is playing Emperor, it's not as fun as it can be. It'll be a lot more fun if people are kind of first getting it. If your play group has not entered the arms race and started dumping piles of money into their decks, Emperor could be a pretty fun format. But when you have those people who are able, if undisrupted, for 4 turns, assemble an infinite combo, and you need one of your aggro players to kill a player in 3 turns, not an easy feat in EDH.
Right.
It's just not going to be fun. It's going to be, as soon as a grunt goes down, the counter spells start flinging on top of a infinite combo that is activated. So, and then whoever has the most counter spells wins the game. So, Emperor, it can be fun, but if you have people who have a lot of infinite combos, don't let them be Emperor. Make them be a frontline grunt. Moving on past Emperor, we have Kingdoms Magic. This one's fairly new. I think Reddit came up with this a few years back. But it's basically the application of another game called Bang. And in that, you'll be playing sort of a free-for-all game, but each player will have a role. And those roles will determine how they as an individual win their game. So you can play it from 5 to 6 players. And each player will receive a role card. You can just use basic lands. So, for example, if you'd use basic lands, you would first shuffle up 5. Let's say there's 5 players. You'll shuffle up 5 cards, including a plains, 2 mountains, a swamp, and a forest. And that's what we usually use. And so we use the plains to determine the king, which would be like the sheriff in Bang Magic. So the king is the only player who begins the game with his role revealed. And he is the king that is trying to defend the throne. So he has extra life, and he draws an extra card at the beginning of the game. And he knows that a lot of the players that are sitting out there are trying to kill him. But he does have an ally, and that ally is represented by the forest. The forest is the knight. And the knight's goal is simply to protect the king. But he cannot show the king his card. You can't reveal any of your cards. So the king has to trust people when they say they're the knight. So usually when the game starts, the king goes, "Who's my knight?" And everyone goes, "I'm the knight." And he's like, "Well, crap. Now I don't know who's the real knight."
5 knights. Pick which one you want.
Yep. And so we move on to the mountains, which are the bandits. We use them to represent the bandits. Now, there's 2 of them in a normal 5-player game. And the bandit's simple goal is to kill the king. If the king dies, all the bandits win. Even the ones who have already died and left the game, you can call them up on your phone on their way home, and you'll be like, hey, we won. Haha, got them. So these guys will have to reveal their hand a little earlier by when they attack the king. Everyone goes, okay, well, you're probably a bandit if you're attacking the king, because you're definitely not a knight anymore if you're trying to protect him. So the remaining role goes to the assassin, which is like super hard mode. And then we represent him with the swamp. And the assassin's goal is just to be the last man standing. Similar to the bandits, he has to kill the king, but he also has to kill the bandits and the knight. So he's like the politicker of the game. He has to sit back and try and manipulate people into killing each other, because he needs to kill people in a specific order. If the bandits if he helps kill the king, the bandits win if the knight's still there. So he has a lot more strategy involved in his gameplay, and we consider him hard mode. There's also a sixth one that we add in called the usurper for a 6th player. And we represent that with an island. And the usurper's goal of the game is to also kill the king. But when he kills the king, he switches the roll cards with the king. And he goes back up to 50 life and draws an extra card. And the king doesn't die. He becomes the new usurper at 1 life. So they switch roles. And now they're exposed and everyone knows who they are. So that one's like an interesting 6th player change. So what do you think, Ryan, about Kingdom's Magic?
The game type is fun. It's pretty enjoyable. It's a nice change to the standard play of EDH. I will say that every single time I have played this, I've been the assassin, though.
Oh, so you have a pretty skewed view of this game.
I do.
Like you were always getting. I think we might have been doing that on purpose. We might have just been giving you the swamp, be like, this guy, we're gonna give him super hard mode.
And that's fine. Super hard mode's fine. I actually almost won the last time we did it.
Nice.
But that's a difficult role to play. Let me tell you. I've never been the king. I've never been the knight. I've never been a bandit. Maybe I might have been a bandit once, but like you said, you have to gung ho and kill that guy so you win the game.
Yep.
And then once you've played one spell that affects the king, they're like, bandit, gotta die.
Yep.
And then this kind of just runs back into the politics side of it, where even if the assassin sees that there's a bandit, a very obvious bandit in the game, they actually might have to stop them from killing the king, because if the bandits kill the king, they win the game.
The assassin loses.
And the assassin loses. So that's So overall, like some of the roles are more difficult than others, but that's why there's 1 instead of 2. I think the knight might have among the easiest roles, because they kind of don't have to do anything.
Yep, and it's easy to prove your loyalty early on.
By just killing everything that affects them. But, I mean, overall, it's a very, very interesting game type. I have no problem with it. What about you, Adam?
I like it a lot. I'm a big fan. I'm not a huge fan when you get into either the usurper, or I think somebody threw in like a pacifier role or something, or pacifist role or something. I've seen a couple different variants on what that 6th person can be, and I'm not a huge fan of those, but I do like the game a great deal. I think that if you're just looking for something extra to do, you've got 5 or 6 people, and you don't feel like playing just a big free-for-all pod. This is easy. I mean, you're going to have basic lands laying around. Like, this is an easy thing to throw together, and it creates for a very interesting game. Guessing at what people are in that game and things like that. I am very bad at that, as my wife will point out after playing Secret Hitler with me. But yeah, it's definitely fun. I like it a lot. Shannon, what are your thoughts?
I love Kingdoms. Kingdoms is and our group does request this one a lot, but I enjoy the multiplayer, the politics aspect. And you know how I spent the whole last episode defending myself as a liar? Like, I'm not a liar. I totally forgot about Kingdoms, guys. I lie all the time in Kingdoms. The only way you can get through a game of Kingdoms is by lying your butt off. Oh yeah, explicitly. I am exactly one of those people who say,
I mean, he's not going to be tongue in cheek about the whole thing. I might be an assassin.
One turn he's a knight, the next turn he's a bandit, the next turn he's a knight.
Whatever I need to be to get that win.
And somehow he tried to lie that he was the king when there was an obvious king already in the game. I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
Yeah, but so this game is really fun for exercises in lying your butt off, seeing if you can trick people, and using moves and plays to try and convince people of your role when it may not be your role. So it's a lot of fun. If you guys enjoy trying to trick each other with plays and arguments, this is a really fun type to play. Now there's a decent amount of game theory that can go into this one about the understanding roles and what their goals are from turn to turn. So being able to identify what their roles are by their actions. and then ways to try and disguise your actions. But we could talk about that at another time. Kingdoms Magic is a lot of fun, guys. You can check out the rules on our website. I know I probably glanced over them pretty fast. They can become pretty in-depth, and I know there's a lot of custom rule sets out there. So definitely play Kingdoms with your friends and try it out. So finally, one additional type that we'd like to talk about is Two-Headed Giant. And that kind of applies to any of these formats. You could switch any format into a Two-Headed Giant. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some of these formats, you don't want to play Two-Headed Giant Kingdoms. You need 10 people, and it'd be miserable.
Two-Headed Giant Star seems horrible.
Oh, yeah, But even just playing regular 1v1 Magic on teams is a lot of fun. Two-Headed Giant provides you opportunities to see other people's decks and get some really cool synergies between two decks that normally aren't playing cards with each other. So it's a lot of fun in experimenting with other people's decks alongside your own and trying to get cool synergies. So what do you think, Ryan? What are your thoughts on Two-Headed Giant?
It's actually, I think, outside of just the standard EDH pod or 1v1 for that matter, Two-Headed Giant is my favorite multiplayer variant. It, like you said, the combinations are unreal sometimes. And the thing about it is we pick our decks usually in our pod, or we pick our decks usually prior to even sitting down with someone and picking and getting a random teammate in our EDH group. And sometimes you get paired with someone being like, this is kind of a weird. I don't even know what we're gonna do. Two mono red decks. This is kind of gross. But then you get sat down with two hardlock control players, and you're just like, we're not gonna lose.
Oh,
yeah. And then there was one weekend where I saw Gisela mixed with Bosch, and I was like, that seems really good.
Yeah.
Double artifact fling damage.
Yeah. Fling somebody for 22.
Yeah, just thank you. I don't know. Just seeing those synergies sometimes between two decks that you wouldn't actually have access to in colors is really, really cool. Yeah. What about you, Adam? How do you feel about Two-Headed Giant?
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge fan too. I don't think we really went into exactly what it is, but basically you have an even number of players. It's the only way that you can do Two-Headed Giant. So it works best with 4 to 6 players, and you have teams that have a shared life total. And you can attack and block for each other, take all your phases together. There are a couple weird nuanced rules to things that attack only affect one person that you can check out in the official rules for it, which are in the comprehensive rules that are linked in our website. But Two-Headed Giant is one of my favorites also. I mean, I like those kind of interesting interactions. Sometimes I'll have a combo deck and I'm sitting with somebody who has a control deck and it's like, oh my god, that's perfect. You just counter all the things and kill all the things and I'll do my stuff.
Goldfish harder.
Yes, exactly. So no, I usually have a lot of fun in Two-Headed Giant games. Sometimes you get those weird pairings where it's just two decks that do not work together or are almost like non-bows for each other.
Yeah.
So that's not the greatest, but we usually afford people the ability to switch out decks at the beginning of the game if they picked something that was
blatantly
just completely not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it a lot. Shannon, what are your thoughts here?
Definitely love Two-Headed Giant. I'm usually one of the first people to say, hey, you guys want to switch this 4-man into a 2v2? Or it also is really good for getting a 6-man pod down into a quick game. We usually switch to a two-headed variant when we have too many players. And we want to get through a game a little bit faster. Of course, 6-man. No one wants to play 6-man free for all.
Excruciating.
So it's just gonna be 2 hours. Many hours. So Two-Headed Giant does speed it up a bit because you have a teammate to help you get through plays, and the plays are explosive, and you can get some really cool synergies. So Two-Headed Giant's a lot of fun. You can apply it to a lot of other game types, but it definitely helps keep a stagnant EDH night chugging along because you get to just have different pairings with other decks to see what kind of new cool little combos you can pull off. So
one note I will say to all of you lovely people is that try your hardest to avoid putting two slow players together.
Oh god,
their turns will be the end of your life. I promise you, it's bad.
Yeah, that is one time where a 2v2v2 can go way longer than a 6-man free for all.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that wraps up kind of the EDH multiplayer variants that we were talking about. Some of these have good political aspects, and some of them are pretty straightforward. You can find the rules for all of these on our website, Trinisphere.com. And there are plenty of other formats that we'd like to cover, but we're going to try and keep this one a little shorter of an episode, trying to get it down there in size. All right, guys, that brings episode 5 to an end. We want to thank our sponsors again, tappedout.net. You can find all of our deck lists on Tapped Out, along with a fantastic brewing community. You can also find us at thetrinisphere.com, and you can find all the rules of the multiplayer variants we discussed tonight there as well. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the Trinisphere. You can find Adam the Johnny on Twitter at Squire9999 and Tapped Out at Squire1. You can find Ryan the Spike on Twitter at Snapmaster and on Tapped Out as I'm Ryan Reese. You can find me, Shannon the Timmy, on Twitter and Tapped Out as Nikki Bolus. If you can go to our YouTube page, you can share, like, and subscribe by clicking on the bell, and you'll get notifications of our next episode, in which we'll be covering our favorite removal spells and when to use them. So as always, guys, it's not about winning, it's about sending a message. Take it easy.